Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special episode where we're going to talk about adaptive issuance. So I have two guests today to talk about this new feature that has been proposed in the Oxford upgrade on Tezos. So I will let them introduce themselves. So Lucas, do you want to start?
Yes, hi, I'm Lucas. I've been an engineer at Nomadic Labs for more than 3 years now. I used to work on the gas, and currently I work in the protocol team on projects such as adaptive issuance.
Great. And Mehdi?
I'm Mehdi. I'm a software engineer. I've been at Nomadic Labs for a bit more than 4 years now. And I've worked mostly on protocol features such as Mikkelsen. And before that, I worked on static analysis for security in different industrial settings.
Okay, great. Thank you. So to start, we can talk about what adaptive issuance is. So we would like to have a better understanding of that feature that's coming in the next protocol upgrade. So I don't know which one of you would like to talk about it, like to introduce the feature.
Yeah, maybe you want me to. So adaptive issuance is a new reward mechanism for Tezos. The basic principle is that the amount of tokens at stake is monitored over time, and in response to the amount of tokens at stake, we issue a certain amount of Tez per block, which then varies over time. The more there are Tez at stake, the less we have rewards per block. And in addition to that, we also give the ability for delegators to stake a portion of the delegation, so that their participation will also influence the issuance rate.
Okay, great. So can you tell us a little bit more about the way that that feature would be activated? So it's embedded in a new upgrade, but there's going to be another vote for the feature. Is that correct?
Yeah, indeed. So in Oxford proposal, we were shipping different features, such as the new staking mechanisms and other things. But we didn't want to couple the adoption of the protocol and the feature. And the protocol is about maintaining different things in the protocol, but the feature is about changing the economics. And we didn't want to bound the two. So there's a feature vote that is added into the amendment, so that Baker can vote on the feature itself and not the whole protocol. So once Oxford is activated, because we'll have the ability to vote for, against, or abstain for the feature. And it's using the same threshold as the amendment vote. So we don't bypass the governance. It's just a bit different. So we don't have listings based on an EMEA, exponential moving average. So it's much easier to compute. But basically, we still need 80% of people voting to agree on the feature so that it activates. It's a new form of vote. Actually, it's not new because we use the same thing for liquidity baking. The threshold was at 50%, but it was the same mechanism. I think it opens the door for more feature-based voting instead of a whole protocol. We'll see how it goes, but I think it's much better because it gives more time to discuss the feature itself and see how people react, and can maybe propose a different version in the future if people don't like it. But it won't stop the protocol upgrades. So we keep upgrading the software at the same time. It's not blocked by the feature vote.
Okay. Do you have more details about how the voting is going to happen? So is it going to be ready as soon as the upgrade is implemented, or is there also like different periods of voting like there is for an upgrade?
There's no period. It starts as soon as Oxford is activated, and it doesn't end unless the feature is activated. There's no end to it. Also, another possibility is that we change the vote in another amendment. Otherwise, it starts in Oxford, and we'll see when it activates. If everybody votes yes from the beginning, then it will activate in a bit more than 2 months, I think. But otherwise, it's going to take a bit more time.
Okay.
Yes. Also, once the feature is voted, it will take a period of 5 cycles before it is actually implemented and in action in the on-chain. So there's a period of 5 cycles where people can prepare, basically.
Oh, okay. There's also another question that I had. So there are like at least 2 new features. So the change of issuance model and the staker role. Is that all embedded in the same vote, or are there going to be different votes for this feature?
There's only one vote. It was much easier for everybody to vote on a single thing. Also, they are related, so it wouldn't make sense to have one without the other. But there are a few changes that are live once Oxford is activated. The new staking mechanism is already live for bakers, for example.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you for that introduction of the feature. Now I would like to have a better understanding of how the current model works. So what's going to change after that? So if one of you would like to explain to us how the the current issuance model works?
Sure. The current issuance model is that we issue around 80 Tez per minute, which is around 20 Tez per block, to bakers. Bakers, when they create blocks or create attestations, they were rewarded. But this value is constant. It's always 80 Tez per minute. It corresponds to approximately a 4.5% inflation per year as of today. It was more before because there were less Tez in total, but yeah, it's around 4.5%.
Lucas, if you would like to explain to us what's going to be the difference with the new issuance model compared to the current one on Tezos?
Sure. In the new issuance model, instead of having a constant amount of Tez issued per minute, we'll have an adaptive one. This value will basically depend on the ratio of Tez at stake on the chain. The yearly issuance rate will stay between 0% and 5% and is composed of two components, a static rate and a dynamic rate. The static rate only depends on the amount of Tez at stake at a certain moment. So if the stake increases, the issuance decreases, and if the stake decreases, the issuance increases. There's a formula for the static rate, and it's easy to compute. The dynamic rate, however, basically looks at the distance of the rate of Tez at stake and 50%. And as long as we're far from this 50% stake, the dynamic rate will increase or decrease. It will increase if we're below 50% and decrease if we're above 50%. So basically, it means that when we are far from this 50%, we'll just try to encourage the amount of stake to change so that we're not staying at a stake percent that might be too high or too low.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, and to finish, so I would like to talk about a new kind of player on Tezos who are going to be the stakers. So they are going to play a role in that issuance model as they are going to stake their Tez on the blockchain. So I would like to understand better what's the difference between a baker, a staker, a delegator, what's going to be the same like it is now and what's going to change. I know maybe Mehdi, if you have more details about that.
So the several things you can do with your Tez. You can do nothing, and that's fine. You just hold them. But you can also participate in the proof of stake algorithm and ensure the security of the chain. Proof of stake is based on having the token as the security for the consensus. So the harder it is to have someone controlling a large amount of stake, the higher the security is. So for that, you can run a baker. Basically, you'll have a machine on which you run the software, probably the Octets baker, based by the laws of the protocol, and produces block as well as attestations when it sees blocks from other people. And the protocol rewards you for that, as Lucas mentioned. Also, the baker earns some fees when people send operations and they are included in the block. So this is the baker role. It's a validator for the chain. You can also not run a baker, but do something with your Tez, participate in the proof of stake by delegating. That's what was done until now. You can delegate Tez to delegate who's going to be a baker. And usually the baker will reward you for that, but it doesn't have to. It's done off-chain. And by off-chain, it could be on-chain operation, but they are not controlled by the protocol. It's totally organic. What we see now is that baker reward delegators by something like 85%, usually of what they earn from the delegation of their baking rights.
Okay.
What we're introducing is a role in between. You can now be a delegator while staking. So by staking, it means you're going to put some Tez at risk, the same way as Baker does. So if he misbehaves, he's going to be punished. The rules of the protocol. The goal of the protocol is to have a consensus, and if people don't follow the rules, they are punished. Economic incentives to ensure the security of the algorithm. So stakers can put some Tez at risk by choosing a baker. It's going to be the same baker. It's going to be the delegate. It delegates baking rights to the same baker as before, this delegation, but now Tez are at risk. So probably they will be rewarded a bit more than delegation. So if the feature is activated, staking Tez are going to be rewarded. At least they will get twice as much baking rights as delegation. Probably they will be rewarded more.
Okay.
And a new feature that we're adding at the same time is that staking rewards are distributed automatically by the protocol, unlike delegation.
Okay, so it doesn't depend on the baker. You can be a staker and you stake your Tez, but you still have to choose a baker to stake your Tez to.
You just start as usual with delegation. You choose a baker, and then you can stake Tez. and at some point you can unstake them, and hopefully they will be higher than at the beginning because you earned some rewards.
Okay. Do you have some information about the amount of stakes that you can provide to a baker, or how does that work? Can I stake as many Tez as I want, or is there a limit?
You can stake as many Tez as you want, but the baker doesn't have to accept them. It's not a per staker basis. The baker can choose to accept staking. Maybe they don't want to, because we've seen some people don't want to take liability on other people's Tez.
Okay.
So there's a global limit of 5 and a per baker limit. The baker can choose
5 stakers? Or?
No, it's the amount of Tez.
Oh, okay.
So for one frozen Tez by the baker, it can accept 5 staking Tez from stakers.
Oh, okay. I understand.
By default, it's going to be 0, but then the baker can change it to whatever he wants. But anyway, it's going to be limited by the protocol to 5. So a baker will now be able to accept, for each frozen Tez of the baker is going to be able to accept 5 Tez from staking and 9 Tez from delegation.
Maybe something to note that even if the limit is reached, more staking is still possible. It just won't be registered as staking. It will be registered as delegation, unless the baker choose to set the limit at 0, which just refuses all staking operations.
Okay. So it's possible for a baker to refuse staking. So there's a setting in for the baker to. Okay.
So we're adding a new operation which is called set delegate parameters, with which the baker can set this limit, and by default it's going to be 0. So all bakers are going to refuse staking by default. And the second parameter is an edge of baking over staking. So rewards are going to be distributed equally according to the amount of stake he has, but the baker can decide to take a bit of that reward for himself for maintenance costs or such things.
Okay. And maybe just a quick question. Is it possible to be a staker and a delegator at the same time? Will I be able to stake and delegate from the same account?
So to be a staker, you have to delegate.
Okay.
So you cannot not delegate unless you stake everything, but wouldn't recommend this because then you have no spendable balance to anything with your stake. Usually delegators will stake some part of the balance and keep some liquid to do things.
Okay, great. Yeah, is there anything else you would like to add about the subject? No, I think we covered a lot of the questions and the details of how it's going to work. So thank you very much, Lucas and Mehdi, to be here, and thank you for everybody who listened to the video. And see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.